the day after we wrapped shooting, there was the news that there was a war in Lebanon. That was a really interesting experience for me because I had made this film without thinking about what was going on in the present day. The song was actually the national anthem of the protest. The singer was imprisoned, the musician was imprisoned for making that song, and we actually were able to get in contact with him. The people who replied to her in their comments were women in Tehran and Iran, saying, "Thank you for dancing for us. Thank you for seeing us." And that's what they wanted. It was clear to us through their comments, through what they said, that they were just so grateful to be seen and to be heard. The government has to read your script if you're going to shoot in Beirut or like get a permit. And also at the time there were like tensions were rising in the area and there was like warplanes flying ahead as well. People don't have high hopes for the industry in LA right now. And everyone's looking at Europe.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Danny.
Thank you.
So happy to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you are a USC producer, writer, and director who has done so many cool projects. You have a very interesting background being from London, but also like the Middle East, like heritage-wise, and studying in America.
Yeah.
And you've done so many, like, you've done dance movies, you've done a lot of like dramas. Talk us through like what inspired you to get into filmmaking?
Absolutely. I guess I tell everybody it was The Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
I watched it when I was like 6 years old, and I think it was the colors and the music and the story and the world building and world creating that like it really like made my imagination flow. Mm-hmm. And then I did so much drama, as I feel a lot of film students do. They grew up doing drama and then they kind of just became weird and did film. So then I did just a lot of drama. But when I started making like short films at school with my friends, that was the first time I felt like I could really like find a way to like materialize like my imagination, which was really nice.
So you went to school, you said you went to school in Nuns? What was that like?
Yeah, so I went to boarding school, like all girls Catholic boarding school, and there were a couple nuns at school. I mean, they didn't teach us, they were just there.
Oh, okay.
But it was, I never really thought about it that much until recently when now I'm producing a movie called Nuns with Guns. But I grew up with a couple nuns around and I never really thought about it. I'm Catholic, but I'm not like uber duper religious,
Mm-hmm. And you have made a lot of movies that is like kind of influenced by that background, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And would you want to get more into like, films with that theme?
So for me, with that being my background, doesn't really come so much from boarding school, Catholic school. It actually comes down to like my Lebanese background because I'm like Catholic Maronite. That's a very old sect of Christianity that's from the Middle East, and there's not many of us. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part of me, just because there's very little Maronites, Catholics from the Middle East, in the world, and people always assume that you're Muslim if you say you're from the Middle East, but there's so many different religions there still. Yeah. And so anytime I do, make a film that has, it's about Lebanon or has some parts of the Middle East, I think you can't always touch on the Middle East without touching on religion, especially for me, because that's a big part of like my heritage, being, Christian and also being from the Middle East.
Right. Did you grow up in the Middle East? Or?
No, I just go back like all the time, Christmases, summers, had family there. So yeah.
Nice. So you grew up in London? Yeah,
most of my life, yeah.
Wow. Nice. And now you're in LA. How has that, changed your view on film and stuff?
Definitely a lot. I saw a video of me like a couple days ago in my last year of school, and I said, I don't know, I want to do drama or film at university. And being at USC has only made my love for film grow and my love for filmmaking grow. And it's so interesting because you're not only is it just USC and SCA, but you're also in LA. Mm-hmm. And even though obviously LA is going through a tough time in the film industry right now, you're always surrounded by so many film theaters, so many reruns of movies. Yeah. Studios are here, so it's hard not to be completely surrounded by it all the time. But I really do love LA. Don't love it as much as I love London, but I definitely have a soft spot for it, and I do really love it.
And you mentioned that you were deciding between drama and film. And by drama, I'm assuming it's like theater?
Theater, yeah.
And what made you make the decision to commit to film instead of theater?
Ultimately, it was getting to USC. It was interesting. So I applied to drama and film at like different schools. Some schools I applied to the drama program because they didn't have a film program, and some universities I applied to the film program. And all the universities I applied to for film, I got into, and the university I applied for drama, I didn't get into.
Oh,
and so it was very
yeah.
clear to me that that was my path.
Was it like when you say like drama and theater, is it like directing or is it acting?
It was theater studies. So it was,
interesting.
I think, a bit of everything. Like, I guess, like, CAMS, equivalent for theatre.
I see.
But, in Denver, I don't think it excited me as much as film. And, like I said, I think fate made it very clear to me that film was the way to go.
Yeah. Freshman year, you made a movie called Apart From Us. And you're one of the only freshman film production people to make like an independent movie outside of class. Like, what made you want to do that?
I found myself at USC, and we were in classes not really making that many movies, but constantly surrounded by it. And I said, I want to come out freshman year with a film. And, I had just met a couple people in our cohort, and I said, let's make a film. It was not great, but the experience was so much fun, and it's how I met many of my best friends in the cohort now. But I think it's really important sometimes just to take that step, because you're going to make mistakes, and I think you learn more from bad films than you do your good movies.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to make. And I'm just like, it was the set days and in the editing room with my friends that really is what I take from that experience most.
That's great.
Yeah.
What are some like important lessons that you learned from that experience? Because I know Jiayang also made an independent film his freshman year, and it's such like a rewarding experience to just go through that process. So what would be like top 3 lessons that you learned from that whole process?
Rewrite the dialogue in your film over and over again. Don't like start filming without you being happy with your script. And also, films can change a lot in the edit.
Yeah. No, that's the Sleep from Missing at Sea. Like,
I
freshman.
saw that. It's so cute.
Oh, yeah,
it was such a great film.
Thank you so much. It. Thank you.
Very good.
Did you always, like, when you got to USC, were you, like, set on this is your career, like, being a film director? Or was there, like, a lot of things where, like, oh, maybe I want to do this or that?
I was pretty sure I wanted to be a film director, writer, but I was still interested a bit in acting, just because I did so much of it growing up. But I think very quickly I got taken up by, the whole rush being at SEA, and then I started producing sophomore year, and I realized how much I love producing as well. And then, I've never looked back, especially in 2024, working on a project, doing my 310, like just solidified how much I want to just direct, produce, and write, and there's nothing else I want to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
What made you like producing so much?
I produced the 290 Crew project for Sona. And what was great about that was it was a film and vision that I believed in, and it was a director I believed in. And being able to be that person's right-hand man, making that film come together for the director was a really rewarding experience. Of course, it was very small scale. It's a 290 Crew project, but that was the first time when I said, I actually really enjoy this. And because, there's movies I like watching, but that I would never make myself, but it'd be great to be part of. And how do I want to be part of that? In the more producing role. So yeah, ever since I've definitely really loved producing, and I definitely directed more than I produced. I find producing less scary because you're not putting your emotions and your vulnerability on the line. Right. However, I think I'm really excited to do more producing, especially now that I'm producing a 480. I just think it's gonna be a great experience, especially because again, I think the script is great. Would I direct it? No, but do I believe in the vision and the team? Yeah.
That's awesome. It's honestly really interesting that you were a producer and Sona was a director for 290, because I was a DP and so was Alex.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know. That's so funny.
That is weird. Okay.
Right?
But anyway, maybe that's how they're like picked. They're like, what would their role in 290?
In 290. But yeah. I what I love about 290 that I guess the transfers don't experience is the crew project experience. I personally found that so valuable because it's a very mini version of 480. You pitch to produce, the writer chooses you. You pitch to direct, the writer and producer choose you. And even though it's very small scale, you film in a hotel room. I think it's great. And I think it's great also to see how can you make a hotel room not a hotel room. You know, we made it, a confessional.
Oh.
We had a confessional scene
sick.
in our hotel room. Yeah, we made the bathroom a soundstage.
That's so sick. Ours was a war zone, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very you.
I guess, yeah. Brighton was the writer for that one.
Oh, really?
Actually.
Oh, and Michaela produced it.
I think so.
Yeah, because I remember Brighton saying, because I pitched the director's script and Michaela was producer on that. I remember Brighton saying how Michaela produced his 290 script.
That's so weird.
Right?
Oh my God.
So many layers and coming together.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, going back to what you said about producing, I totally connect with what you said. The idea of like supporting a director's vision, and even though you might necessarily not be the person who's making that specific film, but the idea of supporting another director. And I was wondering, how do you go about deciding which projects to produce and how to make sure that you align with the way that the director works?
If I were to be in that position, it would definitely be hopefully a director that I would have worked with before, not necessarily in a director position, but you know, in some form or other. And then if I really enjoyed the script, I think people would enjoy it and they have a strong vision, then I'm pretty sold.
Nice. When you were in England studying in the Nuns school, did you take film classes or?
No.
Really?
They had no film classes. They did have a big drama program. They would do 2 plays per semester, and we had 3 semesters in a year. So it was a lot of drama. But I remember the like computer technology department, they had these like Sony cameras. Don't know what kind of cameras. It was just these Sony film cameras. And I remember they did this film competition when I was 13. They said, our first film competition ever, you know, and we were in houses, very like Harry Potter. We all had our individual houses. And so it was like an inter-house competition to get points for your film competition. And so immediately I said, okay, I'm going to act in this. I'm going to be like the lead role, all that. And then no one in my house wanted to direct the movie or write the film. Like, I was really disappointed. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to write and direct it. And then I did. And I honestly loved it so much. I just had the best semester of my life working on this really bad like film with my friends from my house, filming around the school. It was like a film set in the 1950s. I was black and white and silent. But I had such a great time. And then that's like when I learned Premiere and I edited it. And yeah, and then I won the school film competition.
Wow. That's awesome.
You know, it wasn't very competitive. But, that's like the first time I ever tried making a film. And that was it.
Wow.
You know, when you're starting out, a lot of times, and I relate to this too, where you're kind of just a one-person band, you're doing everything like there is to a film from pre to production to post-production.
Oh, yeah.
What was it like coming to USC and collaborating with others and focusing on one craft rather than being a one-person band like you might have been in high school?
Absolutely. I guess coming to USC, one thing that I didn't really think of as much was the importance of collaboration, just because, as you said, before going to film school, if you don't really have a film community, you're just doing things on your own, which is how I felt. And it's not like I missed collaboration, I just never really experienced it. And then, you know, especially sophomore year, and obviously doing apart from us, but especially sophomore year, when we were starting to collaborate within the school system, within classes, that's when I really realized how important it was, but not only important, but how special people are and how valuable their talent is. And it's been really incredible because I guess when you're sitting in freshman year in your first class, you're looking around at everybody who you don't know and you're saying, these are going to be people I work with in the future.
Yeah.
And then now it makes so much sense because there's so many people inside the cohort and outside the cohort that I would work with again in a heartbeat or would want to work with.
It really is so awesome to see how much people have been like proved and grown as filmmakers since freshman year. 'Cause freshman year, everyone was kind of lost and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we were making these iPhone little things, and now we're just like doing bigger things. And I'm so
Yeah.
excited for the future of, you know, everyone.
Absolutely. I think it's been insane how even a year ago, I feel like I knew so much less than I do now. And I think just with the film I made last summer, but with 310 and now like 480 coming up, it's insane the speed at which you learn in film school.
Yeah. How do you think you were able to learn in film school? Like, what are the 3 best ways that made you improve the most?
I guess the people you work with, like I just said, you learn from them the most. I'd say the facilities at USC that you have, Avid, the sound stages, you know, you learn a lot through the facilities. And then one thing I do appreciate about USC, of course, everyone has their complaints, but they do teach you the studio system and how it works. You know, pitching, the writers, is your film going to be greenlit? And I think not many film schools do that. Many of them work on the more indie side. And I prefer the indie market. I love European independent cinema, but I have to say I do really appreciate the fact they drill into you how the studio works. Yeah.
Which class do they drill that into you?
I guess the producing practicum.
Oh, is that what you're taking right now?
Yeah. And
okay.
and also I guess the way that the 480 works as well is kind of a mini version replica of I guess the outside world, you know,
Right.
how USC works as a studio system in its own way by like selecting the projects they're going to finance versus the ones they're not, you know? It's interesting.
No, that's true. A little bit about your 310.
Yeah.
Because that was an incredible movie.
Thank you.
And that was the movie that concluded the P1 screening and it left everyone in awe. Talk a little bit about what inspired that movie and like...
Yeah. When I first thought of the idea, it was about February of 2024. And I do believe that films to a certain extent should be personal, but not verbatim of your life because, you know, we're still so young, we have so much to experience. But a big part of where my inspiration comes from is being Lebanese. Going back to that country, there's so many untold stories, so much richness. I find so much more depth in that tiny country that's smaller than California than I do in the entire of the US. It's such an old civilization as well. And so growing up, my dad would tell me of the stories of him growing up in the Lebanese civil war and having to go fight. And, you know, I thought, that's something I know, but it's not personal enough to me. So I feel I could come at it from a outsider's perspective, but still with the right emotions, because it is my father, after all. And so I also do believe that a short film should be very contained, which obviously you know that too, because you're 310 as well. So I was interested in the family dynamics as they're getting bombed through in the Civil War. And I took a lot from my own family dynamics into the when I wrote the script. I thought, how would me and my siblings act if this was us, you know? I have 2 older sisters, and the 2 brothers I kind of wrote as if they were my older sisters, you know? But no one's ever going to know. It's just, well, until now.
Yeah.
But it makes it more real because I could take that from my own life and put it in a context that I don't know. And then many people, you know, took it as a political film, which makes sense. You know, was a lot going on in the Middle East at the time, and ultimately as well as the day after we wrapped shooting, there was the news that there was a war in Lebanon. That was a really interesting experience for me because I had made this film without thinking about what was going on in the present day, and then everything was happening whilst I was in post-production for it. So this is the most out-of-body experience I've ever had, trying to tell this very just true story, but it now had a more political meaning to it because of the social climate. It was exactly what I intended it to be, the film itself, but I just didn't intend it for it to come out at the social climate that it did, which was really interesting.
Talk a little bit about working on such a personal film with your trio mates, because one of the things that the class kind of wants you to learn is to like work with others, and I think a professor has said that, you know, it's like our film and not like your film. What was the process like bringing a personal story to life with
Absolutely.
collaborators?
I was really worried at first even before summer, about how, because I didn't know Alex or Reese, about how they would receive the story, how they would view me. Because obviously I don't come across immediately as someone who would be from, like, originally from the Middle East, can speak like French and some Arabic. So, but they were great. They immediately wanted to make a great film. Regardless of the story, they would just really focus on making good art. And that's what I appreciate about them. And then I was having trouble setting the story in the time and place without having a title card of Beirut, 1978, you know? I really wanted to set it in this context without having to put a title card on it. And it was Reese who really helped me come up with this idea of introducing the setting through a radio. And he helped me storyboard how that shot would go into the edit. And that was invaluable because I wouldn't have come up with that idea if it wasn't for him. And I think that really helped make the film feel even more real by having this radio introduce the time and context and the setting. And as well, Alex also helped so much with the production design of the radio, for example. He really made it feel battered up, old, rusty. And we were there the night before we were supposed to go shooting, PDing the basement, spray painting what we need to spray paint. You know, they were like learning Arabic words with me, especially Reese in the edit would, you know, start saying some Arabic as well, which is really funny.
Yeah.
But he did a really good job because he knew what I wanted. He knew how I wanted to build up the suspense and the pacing. And he did such a good job in the edit without even knowing the language, how to build up that pacing just because he felt it through the emotions and through the storyboard that me and Alex had made together. So they were, honestly, I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah. No, you guys are like that one trio that everyone looks up to because it's like you guys work so well together on all three projects. Even now,
Yeah.
you know, forming real friendships out of that.
Absolutely.
Like, is that like, what's your approach to like, you know, networking or like even forming these friendships with people you work with?
Absolutely. I think, you know, the best people to work with are your friends because they're your friends because they're good and they're talented, you know, especially I think that's how it works in the film industry. And immediately from the get-go, I knew they were talented. And then we would just spend more time together, you know, go out for dinners, all of us, go to the cinema, you know. We've been trying to go go-karting. It hasn't happened yet. But, you know, and then we got to know each other on a personal basis that's completely outside of film. And then now when by the end, when we did work together, we understood each other and our attitudes because we knew each other on a personal basis. And I think it's really important when you work with someone, especially in film. It's not like an office job when you just need to know someone professionally. When you're doing film, you're always handling people's emotions, handling people's vulnerabilities. So to a certain extent, it's really important to know people on a personal basis as well, especially working directly with them. So I really appreciated that about my 310 trio.
And how do you go about like building trust among your collaborators? Because that's such a huge part of it, is to be able to understand that I'm communicating something and just letting your collaborator work on that thing. How do you go about building that relationship in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I think it's time, just spending time with them. Even when we were doing class projects, you know, the camera tests we had to do, we would just have a lot of fun together. So I think the one thing is just spending as much time together as you can, because that's how you're going to build trust and collaboration. There's no one key rule to it except for just as much time as you can.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys made such a good film. Where is it at now? What are you guys doing with it?
So I've submitted to festivals. I'm currently waiting to find out from a couple. I got into this undergraduate student filmmakers festival called Trinity Film Festival.
Nice, congrats.
Which I'm really happy about. Trying to convince them to come to Connecticut with me. It might look like it's gonna happen.
Trinity College?
Yes.
Right,
it's there.
It's one in Connecticut.
And so that'll be really fun. Still waiting on a couple others as well. I haven't really heard back from any yet, just because you know how you have to wait months.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's almost a year-long process.
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. So now it's just sitting back and waiting, and you know, I know it's hard because it's a 5-minute short, and I don't know how popular that is. Usually the sweet timing is between 10 and 12 minutes usually, but you know, I'll see if
That's great. Connecticut, let's go.
Let's go.
I found out yesterday, actually, Melodies of War got into a film festival in Wyoming.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm trying to convince my friends to go to Wyoming.
They should go to Wyoming. When is it?
It's in the summer, like in July.
Oh,
so,
nice. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so
war
much.
films in festivals.
Yeah, right? I say my film is a movie about love, though,
Really?
Yeah. The love of brothers.
Yeah. I say my movie's a film about family and losing innocence.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. I was saying this to someone else recently, but sorry to go back to the 310, but I think it also relates to yours a bit. I think especially when it comes to war, and that's the context for a lot of movies without it being what the film is about. When it comes to war, I really believe that the first casualty of war is the innocence of children and people's innocence. That's the first impact that war has before any actual deaths or anything. And I always find that fascinating in war films when they show that.
Yeah, I mean, in Melodies of War, you can see the bombers fly over and then the kids are looking up,
Exactly,
it is very true.
They lose their innocence. They're, you see them as kids and then they come back with guns and they're, he's using his friend and, now they're in the real world and they no longer have that child innocence that you see in the film.
It is quite sad.
Yeah.
Would you want to do another war film?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I think if I'm going to do more films about Lebanon, I can't not do a film set in the context of war. But it wouldn't be about war. It would just be the backdrop. I think human relationships in films, you feel them most when they're in a very gritty backdrop and context.
Yeah.
And I think... I could never see myself doing a film about a battle, let's say, but I could definitely see myself doing a film set against the backdrop of a war, especially in the Middle East.
Would you want to do other countries in the Middle East as well? Or would...
No.
Okay.
I think, I did a Baraya, the dance film that really was for the women life freedom movement that Iranians have to go through. But I think when it comes to purely narrative, I don't know or understand the countries around the Middle East as well as I do Lebanon. And I wouldn't say that I know Lebanon super well because I didn't grow up there, I don't live there. My Arabic's not good at all. So I would definitely stick within that. However, I would love to shoot just films in the Middle East. You know how Dune is shot in Jordan?
Yeah.
That's so much fun. I would just want to shoot some sci-fi fancy film somewhere there. It'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you go about researching details about the context of the film that you're making? Because I feel like that sometimes is a huge part of making it feel gritty and feel real.
Yeah.
What's your process like to learn about the worlds?
So for example, for Baraya, the dance film, I didn't know much about. It's about for the women life freedom movement. So I don't know much about Iran. I had a lot of Iranian friends growing up, lots of family friends, but Iran itself, I didn't know much about it. Of course, I did follow the women life freedom movement, but what I did for that film is I just watched a lot of documentaries. I find that documentaries give you a really interesting look into a place, a person, a life, that you don't really get into books or online research. Again, the power of film, of the visual media, is you get to see it and feel it.
Yeah.
And so I just watched a lot of documentaries. I think I watched 5 or 6. And of course I did some research. I did also lots of TikTok. Watched a lot of TikToks of the protests in Tehran. And that was really good as well. Social media is really great for that, I think. So I just did a lot of that sort of research, and it really helped me find the story of the girl we followed in the film. And then for obviously my 310, it was mainly watching some Lebanese movies set during the Civil War, but also just talking to my dad. And, I grew up with him telling us a lot of stories, so I didn't feel like I had many questions left for him, to be honest. But yeah.
Would you ever want to make documentary films?
I don't think so. I think I love imagination and narrative, and I think you should keep using your imagination as much as possible. I think documentaries are great, but it's not what I love to do. Yeah.
Wait, so I saw the the teaser for Barrier when you guys were just starting to make it. It was like pre-production, and it was talking about how impactful her posting the dance video was on like TikTok. So how did you like get brought on the project, and how was that process like?
Absolutely. So she messaged me when she saw my 310 to say congratulations, which was very sweet. I didn't know who saw her, but she just DM'd me on Instagram. And then a couple weeks later, beginning November, she says, "Hey, I'm making this dance film. It's for the Women Life Freedom Movement, and I'm looking for a director. Are you willing to meet? Because I think, I saw your 310. I feel like you have the right vision." And I said, "Dance film?" I don't think my 310 was dance, but I knew what she meant, more the gritty, real aspect that she needed set in a different place, because she wanted a narrative opening to the dance film, and that's what she was having trouble doing. And being Middle Eastern, it's everything sort of connects when you're from that area. So I met with her, and she had a very strong vision. She was very, very on it. She knew what she wanted. And I just went with my instincts and said, "Okay, I'm so down to do this film." And then I met the team, and I met the DP Tyler, and Tyler and I grew really close over the course of the process. I don't think I've ever worked with anybody the way me and Tyler worked together. I feel like I understand him again on a very personal level, but also professional level, and I would genuinely consider him one of my closest friends now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
That's awesome.
Did you bring him on, or is he attached?
He was already on, and so
gotcha.
We met like 2 weeks before shooting, or in
Oh,
one
shit.
a week, and it was definitely an instant click there. Especially when you're storyboarding, and he'd always be telling me, "How is this gonna cut? How is this gonna cut?" Always challenging me, which was good. I needed that, and we worked really in sync on set. We always knew exactly. He knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what he was doing. It was a really great communication, and it was wonderful.
I'm curious though. It is a dance film with a narrative start. So what was it like making a film that isn't necessarily narrative focused, but more focused on the visual of it and the dance of it? What was it like working with Sarah to bring this kind of story that's more, I guess you could call it quote unquote abstract than a traditional narrative film? What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely scary. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a good dancer at all. My sister, she was a professional ballerina with the American Ballet Theatre though. So I did grow up seeing a lot of dance. Still, I don't think that it ever really impacted me in my art and my work. But then I watched a lot of dance films before, shooting Baraya, and I was always really disappointed. A lot of them, had very boring camera setups, which just cut a bit around, but it was just a wide capturing the entire dance.
Right. Yeah.
And I said to Tyler, let's really tell the story with the camera matching the dancers. And I just kind of went with my instincts, and while the dancers were rehearsing, I'd go in with my iPhone and I just shoot around, and then I cut what I shot on my iPhone in Premiere. I try to see what worked, what moments worked, and then that's how I kind of based the storyboard and shot list off of, was the mini visualizer that I made, and it was invaluable to me. And what I think I really liked was, because I grew up also watching a lot of silent movies, I love when movies can tell the entire story just visually. I really don't like dialogue. I think dialogue's important, but it's what's behind the dialogue, what's being seen, that's the most important in film. And so I really went to that angle about visually, how can we tell the story? And it was a challenge, but I think it worked out okay.
That's awesome. Did you work with the choreographer at all to bring the dance?
Oh yeah, the choreographer Ella, she's incredible. She's super talented, and honestly, she was on set while the dancers were dancing, and what was great was I'd tell her, "Can you tell the dancers in my very bad choreography dance language to go left a bit more, and when they do their hands to wait, or can you tell this person to move?" And then she would just translate it into the words that they use, and it was very smooth communication, because if she wasn't there, I don't think the dancers would have understood what I was trying to tell them. But I have to say, dancers are amazing to work with. I mean, you know, of course, everyone knows actors can be a bit tough to work with. You know, they have high demands. Dancers are just willing to go again and again and again, no matter how much sweat they have, no matter how tired they are. They're like definitely some of the best like talent I've like had the chance to work with. They're so easy.
Nice. And you based on all the camera moves on like your instinct, or was there any other influences that made those decisions?
It was mainly on that visualizer that we made. I played around with it in the edit to see what worked. What inserts worked best at what time on what like physical movement they made, and then with me and Tyler we just storyboarded it from there. And because he had done many dance films before, he was also a very great help. He knew what would work and what didn't. But I also just wanted to feel like the camera really was there with these people, and it wasn't just about their movements but also their faces. They are dancing in emotion, and the dancing a pain of these women in Iran, and that was important. It's not just, oh, they're dancing beautifully, they're also dancing for a bigger purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it was very powerful. Was the sound like track or the song, was that written for this film? Or?
So the song was actually the national anthem of the protest. The singer was imprisoned, the musician was imprisoned for making that song in Iran, and we actually were able to get in contact with him. And he said we're allowed to do whatever we want with his song. We're allowed, you know, of course we credited him, but then we had a composer heighten the song with violins and more instruments at the chorus to really make it feel deeper.
Was the recording the guy that's in prison, or
he the recording? Yeah, he's in prison. I think he's out of prison now, but it was his song. So we just took that recording and just developed it more, but it's his song, it's his creation. And so it kept reminding me how important it is what we're doing, especially because the day after I met with Sarah to be on her project, this thing appeared on my Instagram feed. It was these 4 Iranian girls in Tehran dancing to Calm Down by Selena Gomez, just outside with no hijab, nothing, just in their like t-shirts and shorts, and then there was a news article saying they were arrested for it.
Wow. Yeah.
And I just made me realize how important it is what she was doing, because now we're having American girls dancing to a Persian song for the Women Life Freedom movement, and it's just this parallel of these 4 girls dancing to Western music and being arrested for it. And I just think it was a bigger purpose. I think that's why a lot of us really dedicated a lot of time to this film, because it wasn't just for us, it was for a greater cause.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because I know you guys just finished recently, but has there been like, what's the aftermath kind of like?
Absolutely. I mean, we're definitely submitting it to festivals. Sarah's great at marketing and distribution side of things, and she's been taking care of making sure we're submitted to the right festivals. Again, as we said, it's a big process. We're, you know, still not sure what festivals it will go to, but we definitely have high hopes for it. It's tough because it's not quite a dance film, music video, nor is it a narrative film. It's something that's very in between. But I think if it goes to the right festival, especially if it's a festival for social impact, it's gonna make some noise there. Yeah.
You guys did have a screening at USC, I think about a month ago-ish before March
about
break.
A month ago. Yeah, exactly.
What was it like pulling that together and having like a theater full of audiences?
Oh, absolutely. That was all Sarah. That was all. She's incredible. That was all her. I honestly, at that time, we were still deep in post-production, coloring, sound design, so I was completely taken by that, but she did a great job of pulling everything together, getting some great Persian catering as well, which was awesome. And, you know, I know I meant a lot to her because this has been something that she's been thinking about ever since she danced to the film, to the music when she was in high school, and then posting it about a year ago. And so it was a really special screening, and a lot of people who donated to the film, who were Persian, who'd left Iran, who felt close connected to this film were there. So it was an emotional night, I'd say.
Yeah, and what do you hope like this film can bring to the people in Iran?
Yeah, I don't think this film or films should make social change. It's not going to make social change. The government's not going to watch the film and say, oh, we should give women freedom. No, like that's not what we're doing here. I think what we're doing is making sure these women feel seen and feel heard, that they're not alone. Because when Sarah posted her little teaser all those months ago, the people who replied to her in her comments were women in Tehran and Iran, saying, "Thank you for dancing for us. Thank you for seeing us." And that's what they wanted. It was clear to us through their comments, through what they said, that they were just so grateful to be seen and to be heard by people outside of the country. And so I think that's what this film really is doing. It's really not to raise awareness. If you should be aware of the Women Life Freedom Movement, if you're not by now, it really was to make these women feel seen.
Nice. Yeah. That was beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, last summer, were you back in the Middle East?
Yes. I was shooting a short film there, yeah.
How was that?
It was great. It was a really interesting experience. So, like you said, you know, I'm used to doing so many things on your own before you go to film school.
Yeah.
And I think that I felt very alone doing that film. So my sophomore year, I had written a script in the freshman summer, so 2023 summer. And I've always been wanting to shoot a short film in Lebanon, in Beirut, and share that part of the world, share that part of me with the rest of the world. And so I started raising money over the course of my sophomore year. And what was fortunate is that the Lebanese community is very tight-knit. And even though there's not many artists, there are a lot of artists in Lebanon. There's not very well-known artists outside, obviously, but it's very artistic culture there is there. But they do love to support artists and everything. So it was very easy raising money coming from that angle. But again, I felt like I was doing it very by myself, wrote script by myself, needed to find crew in Lebanon by myself. I wasn't going to fly people out from LA, especially I don't know if people want to go, you know, it's a very sensitive area of the world. And then so I get to Lebanon 1st of June, still unsure if this film was going to get made. I was in touch with a producer who was interested and had a friend who would DP, but we had no cast, nothing. I just came, I was by myself at like my old family's house there. And I said, I don't know how this is going to happen. But then within a month and a half, I like wake up one day and I'm on set and like there's like 40, 50 crew members and I've got actors and we're shooting it. And we did a 6-day shoot. We had 3 night shoots. We did like 14 to 16 hour days. It was painful. And also at the time there were like tensions were rising in the area and there was like warplanes flying ahead as well.
Oh my God.
But it was just a complete, again, out of body experience because we were just shooting this film, trying to forget what was going on outside, you know, really focused on this. And I didn't know even if it was going to happen. So somehow I did. And then it was really intense 6-day shoot, but everything went really well. I was really happy. And then it was really tough getting the film edited because of everything going on again when the war hit in September. But now I went back at Christmas and everything's good again. And so now we've picture locked. So now it's with an LA team doing coloring and sound design. So I'm really hoping to get that done soon. I guess the story wasn't as personal. It obviously had personal aspects in it. Everything you write, it has part of you. But it definitely has, again, a political backdrop to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would you say?
That's crazy. I mean, warplanes and stuff. Jeez.
Yeah. It's insane.
What would you say is like the biggest difference in shooting in Lebanon versus in LA?
Everything is very last. If you think film is last minute, everything is 10 times more last minute in Lebanon. 10 times more last minute. I guess it's just everything is so spontaneous. I guess it's also the culture, but also the nature of how everything works there. The government has to read your script if you're going to shoot in Beirut or like get a permit. Again, my Arabic is, you know, it's not there. And so I really had to, thank God, you know, in Lebanon people speak English and French as well as Arabic. But I really did have to improve some Arabic as well, especially because the actors are mainly speaking in Arabic, and I had a lot of help translating the script without making the dialogue sound bad, because obviously literal translations don't sound good. So I had a lot of help making sure that it still sounded good, and the actors did a lot of like improvising as well, so it felt even more natural. And so I'm kind of happy that they did improvise, because there's a lot of dialogue in this story. Even though I know I said I don't like dialogue, there's a lot of dialogue in this film. But because the actor did a lot of improvising, I think it sounds very natural and very real and true. And it also, the story is very relatable to a lot of people in the country as well. So it's like was relatable to everybody on set and to these actors.
Like, how did you get from finding only a producer and DP all the way to rolling cameras?
It was like a fever dream those couple weeks. I found a producer who I just think took a leap of faith with me, just because I would spam text him, spam call him all the time. I said, I have money, I raised this money, I need to make this film, you need to help me. And he had a friend, a DP, and they worked together a lot. And I really think he's also someone who just, you know, is used to just in Lebanon doing commercials all the time and fashion shoots. And this is something, a narrative opportunity, and it doesn't come a lot, you know. And so I think that's also what convinced him to take it on, was the fact that this is a narrative opportunity to make art, even though it's not obviously going to make any money. The film's not going to make any money. So I definitely feel like he took a leap of faith. And then it was through him, he's called Anthony, he's great, that I was able to get the rest of the crew, because, you know, obviously the film industry is even smaller in Lebanon, so everybody knows each other. And he made sure to get a crew of like people that are like in their 20s, you know, young, up and coming, and they were all so lovely. And, you know, I had the most incredible first assistant director, who, she was a couple of years older than me, but she felt like my older sister. And so the way it was gathered was really through him. He did a really good job, and he had contact to actors, and he knew exactly what I was looking for. And the first AD also helped us find actors, because they were all our friends. They were all friends, you know, they were all friends who would hang out, just like we in the cohort were friends, but we worked together. Yeah. They were all friends and they worked together. So it kind of came together very smooth. And I was the outsider, because I was the one who came from, you know, London, LA, to say I want to make this film. And, you know, they don't look at me as being Lebanese. They look at me as someone who's like, you know, lives in LA and is trying to make a movie here. Yeah. Which is interesting. But yeah, that's sort of how it happened.
So, I mean, you were filming this film, and there's, you know, tensions were rising. And you make a lot of films that are like, even though they're not political, like motivated, but they do touch on those subjects. So do you ever like fear, you know, consequences of making films like this?
For Baraya, this one was definitely on the more political than the others. I don't fear that one, because I'm never planning on going to Iran. You know, I did fear for the people on it who were Persian, who have family in Iran, whose names could not be said in the credits. We had to change their names in the credits. So that was like the first, I think, proper experience when I was like, there's a danger for these people, not for me. I think I'm definitely never scared about the politics I put into the films, because it mainly is always the backstory and the backdrop, rather than the actual plot. But I think it's always interesting to set that plot within a really gritty and rising tension situation, just because I think it raises the stakes of any story. And especially for the film I made last summer, it has a very specific political backdrop, a year when 26 politicians in government in Lebanon were assassinated.
Oh, wow.
So I said it in that context, with that as a backdrop, but it was about a family torn apart by one of those assassinations, rather than it being, this is what I believe. Of course, I do have my beliefs, but you have to be careful what you say in media that can be shared, especially because I go back a lot.
Right.
Would you want to shoot another film again in the country, and how would you go about that if you were to
Definitely. I definitely want to go back and shoot a film. I think if I go back, I want to shoot a feature. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be something that's going to happen in the more recent years or later in my life, but it's definitely always on my mind, and it's definitely going to happen someday.
Yeah. I mean, is that the one feature film you were telling me about in class?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think if I'm going to make it, I would need more money, and it's a more ambitious project. But I did have a dream about it. I had a dream about it a couple months ago. And I remember, this is really funny. For some reason, in my dream, I was about to like be put to death for a crime I didn't commit.
Oh my god. Okay.
And I remember my sister was there, and I told her, I said, please make this film for me, because it's the one thing I haven't done in my life yet. So I know I have to make this film one day.
Wow.
But I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to be straight out of USC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the film that you'd want to direct first, have you started like having an idea for the story?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so fresh and new, and I'm like currently working on it in class as well. But it's definitely a more smaller, concentrated, so I feel like it's more doable with a smaller budget and a lighter film. It would be set in the UK and in Paris, and it'd be very run and gun. I'm not gonna say the story just yet, because like I'm not ready to like tell people, but yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. How do you plan on like pulling everything together?
Yeah, I mean, I the goal right now is when I graduate, I have the script locked. I'm gonna spend a year raising funding for it. I've already experienced the application to film grants. I did that for my short film in Lebanon, like the Arab Film Fund, but other film grants as well. Like there's a lot in the UK that are really supportive. I think they're more supportive than the US when it comes to art and filmmaking, you know, tax incentives as well. So I'm definitely going to spend a year just fundraising, and obviously the script will be locked by then, or improving it as well. And then I would love to have people from USC work on it. And I know that it's a big ask to have people fly over, you know, so I would be willing to, you know, in the budget, like pay for people's flights to come, because obviously I do know people in the UK at the London Film School, at the National Film and Television, but it's not the same way as I know the people here. And of course I'm going to expand my network in the UK, but there's some key people here in LA who I don't want to go without.
Right. That's sick. I mean, what is the UK film industry like compared to LA?
I know more about the LA film industry, but I know that the UK, everything's smaller budgets, and that the government does fund like a good 20 to 30%.
Wow.
And there's a massive tax incentive there. And there's less desire to make commercial projects. There's more desire to make good quality art. And I do believe that also comes from the theatre in London and the UK. The theatre is very popular over there. Of course, theatres did suffer a lot during COVID, but I know that there's a very strong culture around drama and theatre there. And because lots of the actors do TV and film as well, there's a strong incentive for good art and for good TV and for good film, even though it might be less popular, like commercial. I know that big studios here, big films, often love to go to the UK and shoot there because of the tax incentives, because it's cheaper. I think, you know, it's weird that I left London to make movies, and I feel like every path is bringing me back over there, because when you look at the industry here, people don't have high hopes for the industry in LA right now, and everyone's looking at Europe. So, you know, I don't want to go back just quite yet. You know, I really do need another year, and I probably want to spend a year here planning the film, fundraising before I go back. But will go back eventually. I know I will.
What would you say is like the biggest challenge potentially for the feature film, and what are ways that you plan on overcoming it? Because the first feature can be quite challenging.
For sure. I think the biggest challenge will be bringing the people I want on it, because you never know who's got jobs at the time, who's going to be freelancing, who's going to be making their own projects. And also, you know, having people like leave for, I don't know how long we'll be shooting for, but like, you know, 2 weeks is probably what I would aim for. Would leave LA for 2 weeks to come to the UK, come with me to Paris, and trust me enough to shoot my film. So that's gonna be a big challenge, but I feel like I've made really solid relationships here at USC, not just friendships, but people I love to work with. And ultimately, because I love to produce as well, these are people I would also want to produce for in the future. So not only are we really good friends, but we want to help each other and work with each other. Yeah.
That's so sick.
That's awesome.
Wow. You gotta tell me the story after this podcast.
Yeah, I will.
That's so interesting. Oh my god. And so like half of it take place in the UK and half in Paris?
Yeah. I mean, I guess half. I think I would want to shoot Paris more running gunning, so we'd probably have less shooting days. And I do feel like I want to shoot at my old boarding school. So if I can get that for free over like a summer break they have, because they're super chill, that would be really cool. I'm trying to find the like cheapest possible way to make this
Well,
and
you got
spend
to.
all the money on like
That's the
people's
way to
flights.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. How big of a scale do you envision it like at this moment?
I think it's going to be a very indie first time feature. Something I want to put into festivals in Europe, really show my style as like a European filmmaker. And then from there, if it does well, hopefully do more ambitious projects in Europe and then bring Lebanon into that. But I don't want to go out from the gate being I'm a Lebanese filmmaker. I want to go like laterally to help Lebanon later in my life.
And would you say like 100K or?
Yeah, 100K,
Cool.
150K ideally. Of course, you know, this seems ambitious, but I have like fundraising experience with my short film where I was able to fundraise quite a bit of money. And so I feel like, and there's lots of funds over in Europe that are super generous to student filmmakers. So I'm definitely going to dedicate a lot of time to making sure I have access to that money.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we'll go from there.
Speaking of fundraising, what would be your like top advice on fundraising, like a short or a feature? Because
Yeah.
I think money sometimes is the bigger barrier in filmmaking.
Absolutely. So first, which everyone says, is go to friends and family. To have a small amount of money, you know, from them before you go to people disconnected from you, because they're not going to give you money unless they see that you already have raised them, you know?
Right.
So once you have a good amount, or like, you know, just enough to start, that's when you go to the individual bigger people. And when you go to them, make sure there's a reason why you're contacting them. Do they relate to the story? Does the story, you know, impact them? I guess when I was doing my Lebanese film, it made so much sense reaching out to a lot of Lebanese people who had to leave Lebanon during different political climates, because, and this story would affect them because they were also separated from their family. So I definitely had an emotional angle for people to give me money.
Yeah.
And I think that's why sometimes with films that don't have an emotional, social aspect, it doesn't make them less important. It just makes it harder to raise money. So find the angle that would convince people to give you money. And also, of course, you want to say, do you want an EP role on it? Do you want to be special thanks? So I definitely think just have a very strong angle and be very specific from person to person. Don't send out like emails to 100 people, like the same email.
Yeah.
Craft every email specifically to those people, because like people love to hear about themselves.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, that's gonna be a feat. I mean, but I think you got it.
Thank you.
And I'm curious though, like, what is your thoughts on like freelance versus, you know, corporate stuff?
Absolutely. This has been a big internal debate I've had myself, because sometimes I just like close my eyes and say, if I was a studio head, I would just love my life. But I think everybody has their own path. Because I love Europe so much. I love European cinema, and I love, you know, Middle Eastern, Lebanese cinema as well. It's very clear to me more and more that I need to be in the more indie world, in the indie market, have a very strong language. But that's not for everybody, and everybody needs to know where they would thrive because of what kind of movies they like. So find the movies you like, and then where do these films come from? And then go from there.
That's beautiful. How do you like come up with these like ideas? Like, what inspires you the most usually?
I start from what I know and then go from there. I don't, like I said before, I don't like verbatim. I don't like the short films you see that are like living room family dramas. Oh, I experienced this. You know, you should use what you've experienced and put that in a greater context. So I always go from what I know and then what I like and what I want to see, and I try and marry the two.
Okay. And what kind of styles of movies are your like favorite?
I love old films, firstly. Like, I love Gone with the Wind, Casablanca. Like, I love the older style of filmmaking. I think it's so much more elegant and nuanced, rather than just, you know, especially like horror films today, they just love to surprise you. Back in the day, especially Hitchcock, was full of suspense and waiting and waiting and waiting. And especially that's also with intimacy today. You see so much like on film, it's so explicit. Back in the day, it was so witty and so smart, and I think had more tension because they couldn't show everything on screen. Same with horror. So that's why I really love old films. I love their techniques. But I think I also love story-wise, like I've said, the more European coming-of-age stories. Like, I don't know if you've seen Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my second favorite film of all time. I think it's a story that is really special and really important. And I love how this kid is growing up and there's a very real, like I said, a very real political backdrop that you kind of sense, but it's not the story.
Right.
And that's what I love about that film. And so I've been dying to love to make a coming of age story of like a kid growing up in Lebanon during the Civil War and that being the backdrop, but not the story, So yeah, those sort of films for sure.
How do you go about bringing those like older elements that you enjoy and then incorporating into your own work that's set or I guess made in present day with present day sensibilities? Like how do you plan on combining the two?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Hitchcock's one of my favorite directors. And I guess when I look at these old films, I try and use their techniques and, and I want to keep using their techniques and put them into more modern day stories. See, my 310 wasn't like set modern day, but it's obviously a film made now. And for me, I really was about building dread, like having dread and then building tension. And, what Hitchcock did is he would use long drawn out takes and then slowly build it up, build it up, build it up, build up to the climax. And that's, what I told Reese that I wanted in the edit was that similar Hitchcock building of dread. And I think that's more impactful than any cathartic blowout monster you see or anything. I think it's that building up of the dread and the tension and keep it as long as you can so the audience are at the edge of their seats. And then the cathartic experience is just even better.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you taken the Hitchcock class here at USC?
Yes, I have. I took it last semester.
Which one was your favorite out of the ones you saw?
I do love Psycho. Like, how can you not?
Classic, yeah.
But I also really like Vertigo a lot. I think Vertigo is really good. And I forget this one, but it's set in Casablanca in Morocco. I really like that one as well. I don't like the style of it as much, but I do like the story.
A lot of what you say reminds me of this one movie called something Heaven, I think. It takes place in the Middle East. It's about a little boy who loses his shoes or something, and his sister tries to get it for him, something like that. I'll talk to you after.
Yeah.
I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, I'd love to. It sounds interesting.
You guys don't know what I'm talking about?
I feel like I do, but I'm totally blanking on it.
Okay, I'll find it for you.
Yeah, there's actually a Chinese film that I think you would love. It's called In the Heat of the Sun.
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
I love that movie so much, and it's really similar to Cinema Paradiso in that it's a coming-of-age story set within the backdrop of political turmoil, but it's very much focused on his experience growing up and meeting the people in his life. So I'll totally recommend that.
For sure, I'd love to watch it.
What is your thoughts on internships?
I think you should definitely do internships. It's good to make connections. I've done a couple internships. I'm actually interning at Heyday Films this summer, which I'm really happy about because, again, it's kind of company that I like, small companies but that do good films, It's very typical, a film student. But I think it's good. It's important to do internships, but you don't want to overload your summers with internships because you do need time for creating and for making art. If you want to be a director, you should definitely keep time for that. You should intern a bit, but you should definitely keep time for your creating and your making of films. If you want to be a producer and go through the studio system, just intern as much as you can. Agencies, that's what they all say. But what I did was I obviously interned before I started university, but once I started university, I did 2 internships my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I didn't do an internship. I worked and focused on shooting my short film. And that took a lot of time. And I'm really glad I just fully focused on that. And then this year now I'm doing an internship again. So I think it's important if you want to be a director to just balance the two because you do need time and you need to make time for your art and your creation. And if that time is 2 months of writing a feature, well then take those 2 months to write a feature.
Right. And you don't see yourself going in the studio system, right?
No, I've thought about it, and sometimes I would just love to like walk around like a boss telling people what to do, but it's not the films that I want to make, and I just keep reminding myself how much film makes me feel emotionally, and I don't want to lose that. So I definitely think I'm going to start the independent route and go from there.
I'm curious though, how do you go about keeping the more like industry knowledge that you've learned through internship and the creativity part? I would want to say maybe separate, but like make it such that the one doesn't influence the other.
For sure, yeah.
How do you go about?
I guess through the internships that I've done, I've actually learned a lot. And because they have been smaller companies, I've been able to learn what they look for when it comes to independent film. Utopia Distribution was one of the internships that I did my sophomore year, my freshman year. I interned for them at the Cannes Film Festival, and I learned a lot about how movies are bought and sold and what kind of movies they're looking for. They are an LA-based company, but they buy a lot of like international and indie films, and I love some of the films they've bought, like The Sweet East. So, and that's interesting to me because I guess if I were to, go on this journey in my life, the films I want to make, I would want to, they probably would go to festivals and be in festivals.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to learn how to sell that once I'm in the festival, and what these festivals are looking for film-wise, because they do buy independent cinema. People do want to buy independent films, and they do well. I mean, we saw Nora win how many Oscars,
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's you actually just learn as much as you can as the internships, learn what people want and how the business works, because at the end of the day, even though I do want to make independent auteur style films, I do want to make money. I do want them to make money. So it's also important to know how to sell them and how to market them.
Yeah. And how do you feel like you've learned from these internships on how the business works? Like, what are some key takeaways, I guess?
I guess the key takeaways is, when you're financing a film, I worked at a financing company in London, that the script actually matters a lot more than people think. They're always thinking, it's the big names, and it's the director attached. But this company that financed some big films in the UK would rip away any bad script. So sometimes a script can sell on its own as a script. People say, make a pitch, and then sometimes the script just says everything for itself. So a great script, send it to as many financing companies, because some intern will be reading them for the script coverage. And if it's a great script, they will love it, and they'll put it on the top of the pile and tell them to read it. And so if it's a great script, it's usually can go far. I think also it's great to learn about the film festival market and distribution. Like, if you can even just go to film festivals from friends and just learn about how the selling works and the buying and everything, because that's where all the deals are made. The festival's really isn't about the films playing there. It's about the deals. So it's important to go to as many festivals and learn that. I think that's the key takeaways, I would say.
And one of the things you mentioned earlier was sending your script out to production companies.
Yeah.
And one of the important ways to do that is to have an agent or representation. How would you go about securing one for yourself as a director?
It's a good question, and I've not really thought about that. I guess for me, I want to keep making art, keep making films and projects until, someone comes up to me. But, I currently don't feel like, I'm at that place in my life where I need to be looking for an agent. I just want to keep making, and that will come at the right time if need be. But I also think that you have to be relentless. You have to find emails. Like, I send letters to people as well. Like, I don't just send emails. Like, for my internships, like, I'll email a couple people at that company, and then I will send a DHL letter. I will handwrite my letter, why I want to work at your company. Here's my CV. Like, I will be relentless, and that's how you have to be in life.
Oh, wow.
So
that's crazy.
It's like, you just, you have to be absolutely relentless, because if you keep, pissing someone off by calling them so much, they're just going to give it to you in the end.
Right.
So I think that's a key thing. And it's not just in films, it's just life lesson. Just be relentless with anything you do. If you want it badly, just keep going.
How do you know when the doors close, though, you know?
After sending like 3 emails and like 2 letters, then you can like stop. It's like the same. But like, I think just send out as many emails to different companies as you can. And if the ones you really want, send letters to them. It's paid off for me a couple times. Of course, most of my letters do get unresponded. But when it does pay off, it pays off, and that's good.
How do you find their mail? Like, you just mail it to them? Like,
I stalk every single website for a possible address. Sometimes it's probably not even their real address, you know. But I just think sometimes it's also good to have like a connection with someone in like who's like a professor in the industry who can who has access, you know, to those websites when it gives you the emails to the people in the industry. That's helped me a lot by being able to like, you know, talk to someone, being like, hey, do you have this email of this person? And they'll give me that email. And then all I have to do is just send, you know, an email now.
Right. Wow.
I'm curious, how do you go about keeping those connections? Because I feel like sometimes it's easy to kind of lose track and you don't really contact. So how do you go about, you know, building that community of your own?
That's something I do worry about. Like, you do an internship, you want to keep that connection, but how do you? I had a coffee last week with my old boss from freshman year. That was really nice. I mean, you know, because I keep sending her my work. We WhatsApp, so I've been sending her my updates. She was in LA. We grabbed coffee. She told me about the projects she's doing, which are actually really cool, you know. And so, you know, if it's in a couple of years time comes, and I would like her help financing my first feature, or, you know, later down the line, I know that that's someone who's, you know, I have a good relationship with. So it's just good to find that one person wherever you do your internship at that you can just have to get their number, text them, keep them updated, send them fun articles that makes you think about them. Just don't let them forget who you are. You know, if it's like once a month, that's fine. Just make sure just keep that conversation up going.
No,
That's
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think another huge way of like networking, like keeping in contact is like through social media, right?
Oh yeah.
How do you utilize social media to help you?
I did create like a public film Instagram this semester, and I feel like I'm more comfortable now to keep in contact with people in the industry through Instagram, because like I don't want to follow my like private Instagram, you know. I'm like, I'm in Coachella, guys, like no. So I think definitely once, and it's for you to feel prepared, but when you do feel ready to create a more Instagram where you can put your work out publicly and put yourself out publicly, that's great, because then now you can actually follow people in the industry without, you know, being embarrassed about what you post. So I think that's a big step, but also, you know, you don't want to rush and do that. It's just whenever you feel ready. It's a good thing to do.
Nice. No, I saw your film Instagram. That was like, it's sick. I mean, I feel like it is important to like have people updated constantly on what you're doing, and just to show that you are making stuff consistently.
For sure. Yeah.
Would you want to get more back into like the theater side of things in the future, you think?
No, but if I'm like 60 and I'm in the UK and I'm like just like chilling at my house, I have a dream of like putting on my own version of Hamlet. It's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, and I studied it in depth at school. And I had this whole idea while I was studying about if I were to direct a play, like making it set in a courtroom, because many people when they read, sorry, I'm going to go very like British analytic now, but many people when they read Hamlet, they think that Hamlet, the prince, is, you know, when they read in depth, is like, you know, has schizophrenia, and he's like adamant that his uncle killed the king, but, you know, there's never really any proof he did that, because he sees his father's ghost. Is the ghost real? So I have this vision of actually setting it in a courtroom where there's every single person is a candidate, is like on the how do you call it, the guilt stand, to be, you know, say you're the one who, you know, murdered the king, so you don't really know who did it. So it's like a whodunit sort of Hamlet, take on Hamlet. And the dialogue would say the same. Everything would be exactly as written, but the style would be of whodunit.
That's so
very
fun.
like Anatomy of a Fall.
Yes.
That's really,
wow.
That's a really cool spin on it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. You should do that as a film too, honestly.
Maybe. I don't feel like people want to see like a a Hamlet film with like, unless you change the dialogue, I guess.
Make it modern.
It's like
Make it modern, yeah.
Hamlet met 12 Angry Men almost.
Exactly.
Courtroom drama, but it's, almost set in the world of Hamlet and the
Exactly.
story of that. Yeah.
And
We good.
Talking earlier about like the sending scripts to production companies, because I'm also doing script coverage right now this semester, and throughout the semester, I mean, it's almost coming to an end. I've gone through like 20 plus screenplays. I've maybe considered like 2 or 3 of them, and I mean the rest are really well written too. Don't get me wrong, but they're not like of the caliber to be made. So what do you think can make a script stand out?
A fresh new story. There was this one script I remember I read, and I've never read anything like this story. And it was just so original. So don't think about, I guess, what you've watched and comps and everything. Comps are good for visual style, but for story, don't think about comps. Don't think about what is this film going to be like compared to other films. No, like I think stories should be really stand alone. It can't remind you of, it's like, I don't know, this film. No, it should be completely unique and separate. And of course it's really hard to do because it comes from your own imagination, the own writer's place, but it's the freshest, newest voice will always stand out. And then also characters. Secondly, I think interesting characters that people want to see on screen. I think it's a massive wave when women want to see more female characters, lead characters, and that was important, and that came on screen. But now, how do you make them more complex? How do you make a character have more nuances? What character do we not really see on screen? So, yeah, I think, and also I guess there's those 2 aspects. But then I guess if you're telling a true story, what stories do need to be told? Is there like a historical figure whose story's never been told, people don't know enough about? I mean, I think Alexander Hamilton was like a great musical because not many people knew about Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then everybody now knows about him. It was a story that needed to be told in the way it was told. So then there's also those stories. I'm not talking about biopics for artists because that's overdone, but stories about figures in history that maybe people don't know much about. And then, if you make a movie about it, people want to learn more and see.
Yeah.
There's that
awesome.
too, yeah.
Is there a movie that you're looking forward to that kind of fits what you were describing?
Well, I would say that recently, in the past year and a half, Saltburn came out. And I talk about it a lot, and I've seen it 10 times now. But for me, why I love Saltburn was because it was, and people might disagree with me, but I really do believe that it was a new, fresh story and a new, fresh character. I've never seen a main character you feel for him, but then at the end you realize he's a pure monster. That's very rare. And also the story itself, it being even though it's 2004, but being a more contemporary gothic film that has like very horror gothic subtext behind it without being supernatural, but it has a supernatural aspect. And then also it being set against a very real backdrop of a disintegrating British aristocracy society with very real fears. It had so many layers, contextual layers, that I just felt watching it. And I think that's what made it a really new and fresh film. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. People are going to compare it to The Talented Mr. Ripley. I can disagree. I think maybe the plot, but the story itself and the characters are completely different.
Would you want to work at Margot Robbie's company? Because I feel like the movies that she produces fit your taste pretty well.
I sent Lucky Chap 3 letters and I didn't get a response. But yeah, I would love to work for Lucky Chap. I was also been dying. I really wanted to be on the set of Wuthering Heights because Emerald Fennell is like one of my favorite female directors. But I think they're wrapping shooting in a couple weeks. So they've been shooting the past couple months. But yeah, I mean, I think what she does is really great because she supports, obviously big films like Barbie, but she started off with smaller movies, I, Tonya, and the films she does obviously are very female-centered, which is great, and they have a very big UK presence, which is also, I think, really important, especially today. So yeah, I do really like her company.
That's awesome.
And this semester, you took 310 last semester. This semester, you're back in 310 as a TA.
Yeah, I am.
How is that experience like?
It's been great because I guess like my professor, like producing professor Naveed, him and I are really close. He's helped me a lot, like get my internships and just giving me a lot of advice. So it's just nice to be like seeing him every week to keep that contact, and and he was a great help, especially during the 480 pitches. Like he helped me, Sona and Reese a lot. And he watched our pitches, which was really helpful. Then being the essay, it's kind of nice seeing it from that perspective as the students come. Like it kind of reminds me how much people learn in 310 because of how I see them also coming into 310 more nervous, and now we're there at P3, they know how it works, and that's how I felt coming in for P1. We had no idea what we were doing, And then by P3 it was just routine. And also it's nice because you see the students that are really talented and have are really ambitious, have a strong voice and a presence, and those are the ones that I'd love to have work on Nuns with Guns if they don't poached by Starman.
No, that would never happen. What do you mean? Do you go to class every day to see?
I go to class Tuesday and Thursday mornings, their breakouts. I get to watch their dailies, their rough cuts, their scripts.
What do you think about E-Man's dailies?
I really liked E-Man's dailies.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like the lighting that was in there?
Was the lighting done by you?
No, I don't know.
No, of course not. I mean, whoever did the lighting, it wasn't that great.
It was not me. It wasn't me. But that's cool though. You're on the other side. I mean, they did put you in yellow, which is unfortunate.
I would rather be in yellow with Naveed than in purple with Kipler.
You know what? That's very fair. We also want Naveed on the podcast, so
we should get Naveed on the podcast.
That would be legendary.
Naveed on the podcast would be like the best candidate ever. Like, genuinely.
Are you taking his 460 class or?
No, I'm not.
Are you going to?
I don't think so.
Oh, I want to take it.
You should take it.
It's like, but it's always conflicting with everything. It's on Tuesday.
You really should get him in your class, in your podcast.
I want to.
That'd be cool.
You know what?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can ask him.
You should ask him.
I will.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I would love to sit on the bed and watch the podcast live.
It would literally be like the first professor on our podcast.
It would be great. I think it's probably like also good, like step in the right direction for the podcast.
Oh my god! And I think that would help so many people on this podcast.
Yeah, because Naveed, he's all about mentorship and helping young people. He loves that.
Danny, you're a really driven and relentless person. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
5-10 years. I always think about that. But can I say in 10 years' time?
Absolutely.
In 10 years' time, yeah, I mean, as you guys know, I'm very ambitious. Expectations low, but like hopes high always. But in 10 years' time, I'd love to be living in the UK and shooting in Europe, and hopefully making potentially my second or like third feature, and hopefully having some couple movies and like some nice festivals like I know Cannes or Venice would be great, but that is ambitious, so we'll see. But high hopes, low expectations.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Way to have a plan though,
Yeah.
And something we do on this podcast actually is we have the previous guest leave the current guest the question.
Oh.
And our previous guest asked, what's your favorite thing you've ever made?
It was definitely my 310. I don't know, I feel like it was a really special experience because like what I was going through with my family, like, and also with everything going on in Lebanon whilst I was making it, really drove me more. And sort of how I envisioned it when I first like storyboarded it and wrote it, it came out exactly as I had pictured in my mind. And I feel like that doesn't happen a lot, and that's fine because so much happens. The edit gets redone, the whole story. But in this scenario, it really happened exactly as I had planned in my head. And I think that was the first time I really felt like my imagination had been materialized into something. Yeah. And it was great.
If you can bring like 2 to 3 movies to a desert island, what would they be? 2
to 3 movies? I'll tell you my top 3 movies. Gone with the Wind from 1939. It won 8 Academy Awards. Cinema Paradiso, 1990, Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. And third film, Ben-Hur, 1959. Oh, wow. 11 Academy Awards. Classic. And you knew the awards. That's sick. Yeah. That's awesome. 3, think those three are my favorite films, but they're also epics in their own way. They all have like a big journey.
Yeah.
And I like that because it never gets tired, because every mini journey they go on in this long journey is a film and a little story in itself. That's why I like epics.
That's awesome, and it's a process, and I'm sure you'll find your voice.
Yeah.
Very soon down the line.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Danny, for coming
Thank
on.
you. This was
has
fun.
been really fun.
Good luck on the feature.
Thank you.
We'll invite you back after you finish that feature.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. I'll see you guys in 50 years when I'm like in prison dying.
All right. Good episode. Oh my
Thank
God.
you.